Hey, greetings. Welcome to Sunday Rants. And we're at August 29th, Sunday Rants, 6 p.m. Pacific time. I am your host, James Arnsberger. Hey, so tonight, what we're going to do is look at a little bit of this post-conviction review boards, right? We're seeing a lot of discussion lately on post-conviction review panels, boards, groups, whatever, that are put together to go back and look at a case that may have been raised in terms of wrongful conviction, right? And they're going through the process of post-conviction review, and there has been allegations or charges maybe that this person was wrongfully convicted, and so they're going to take a look at it and go back. You have to apply for it and then get through a bunch of processes. Every area and jurisdiction is a little bit different. Here's the problem, several problems that I see with this whole notion that we're being told by those in the positions of the power and the authority about post-conviction review. First of all, it's usually the prosecutor's office that sought and obtained the conviction in the first place. So we're asking them to investigate themselves. Well, that fundamentally just smells bad to begin with. Second, they're only looking at the cases that are applied for, and only if there is showing that there may be some good reason to do a post-conviction review. So let's take a case where they've accepted a post-conviction review, and then they're only going to look at a couple of narrow areas, as I understand the process and how it works. What I think that an adequate remedy, if you will, for post-conviction review is, number one, it shouldn't be done by the same offices, the prosecutor, the investigators, and the police departments that were involved in getting the conviction in the first place. That's number one. It should be run much like an office of independent counsel, where that person, man or woman, that is appointed as an independent counsel has grand jury power. They have the subpoena power, and everything from the original crime scene to the investigation, the arrest, the police, the investigators, the prosecutors, the juries, the jury selection, the attorneys, the judge, everything should be subject to complete and total review, and not just bifurcate these limited scopes of review and areas of review. Everything should be on the table when there's a case of wrongful conviction. We only have the several thousand cases of exonerated defendants that are no longer in prison who were already freed from being wrongfully convicted as the basis and evidence that we have a system that is seriously broken and flawed. So if we're going to talk about reform in the criminal justice system, we're going to talk about reform in the police departments, if we're going to talk about reform in the office of the prosecutor and the courts and the investigators, we better talk about reform all the way through the entire system and get off of this notion that we're going to let the people that got the conviction originally investigate themselves as to whether or not they got the right conviction. Now, they'll tell you, a lot of them here in San Diego County and other places, that inside that office, they have firewalled it off so that that person has free reign to look at just blah, 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 blah. No, that's not even close to being adequate. It needs to be somebody outside of the jurisdiction of that office, and no political influences, no power trips, none of the BS that we see all the time. Somebody clawing up their way up the ladder of career advancement on the backs of all the people that they put in prison wrongfully, right? And I think if we're going to have any meaningful discussion or dialogue about reforming this criminal justice system, that's got to be an area that we look at and open it up. What are you afraid of, right? Why would you be so concerned with having the entire process handled in an office of like an independent counsel, where they have subpoena and grand jury power? All the legislature has to do is enact a law, and the governor sign it into law, and bam, we're done. And there should be no reason why anybody would object to that, unless you've got something to hide, unless there's been wrongdoing and you don't want all of the wrongdoing to come out, unless you're part of the problem and it happened on your watch and you're coming up for re-election and you want to be re-elected to your cushy little political position. So there's a whole lot of reasons driving the reason why we don't have a full, transparent process in the criminal justice system, from the crime scene to the prison door that closes on the wrongfully convicted man or woman that's sitting in prison. And the entire process stinks. And I'm being polite. There are thousands of cases of witnesses being coerced into making statements that were false, that people got convicted over those false statements. There are thousands of examples of police officers manipulating evidence, planting evidence. There's even some cases where this has actually been established and admitted by the cops. And in a few of those cases, fortunately, they got prosecuted. There's even evidence and cases in these thousands of cases of wrongfully convicted people that have now been freed and exonerated, where the prosecutor's misconduct, the prosecutor suborned perjury or helped cover up a witness's testimony or helped cover up false evidence. I mean, the whole system just stinks, right? If we're to have, and if we're to be asked by these elected officials that we should trust the process, I mean, why, right? Ask the thousands of people that were wrongfully convicted and later exonerated after decades in prison. Ask them how much trust they place in the criminal justice system. We took most of their life, threw them in prison, warehoused them, and did what? Oh, sorry, got it wrong. We made a mistake. You know, I mean, give me a break, right? So one of the things that I think that we as citizens should at least address and understand, and this transcends everything. This transcends politics. This transcends race. This transcends sexual orientation. It just, look, if the system is broken that bad that many people can be put in prison, and then later they admit that they exonerate them because they got it wrong, then everything that they do from that point forward should be in question, serious question, as to its veracity or validity. We should have no trust in a system that's that flawed, period. And until we understand that the political doublespeak that we listen to a lot of the times is not about making any meaningful reform, because if they were interested in making meaningful reform, what they would do is they would champion the cause of appointing an office of independent counsel, give that person the full power of grand jury to convene a grand jury, give them the full power of subpoena, and let them just go from the day of the crime and the crime scene all the way to the day that person became an inmate and a number in our prison system. And everything should be on the table for review. And all the wrongdoing, here's the second part of the reform that we really need to have. If it is determined, and there are tens of thousands of cases where it has been determined that there was wrongdoing by any public official, whether it's a cop, whether it's an investigator, an expert witness, a witness, whether it's a juror, whether it's a judge, a prosecutor, a defense attorney that steps over the line. I don't care. If anybody was involved that led to that person getting wrongfully convicted and broke a law, they should pay a consequence. At a minimum, they should be fired. At a minimum, they should not get any of their government retirement plan that we all pay for with our taxes. At a minimum, every case that they touched from day one to that day when they were hired should be scrutinized and reviewed. Because if they did it once, that's only the one time that we caught them doing it. What about all the other thousands of cases where they haven't been caught doing it? So if we are to have a conversation, and it is a conversation that is to be meaningful, and it's focused on the reforms of our criminal justice and police system, then what we need is just like with the cops. They have an Office of Internal Affairs. Guess what? It's the office upstairs. It's the same cops. It's the same police department investigating their same cops. Now, I'm sure most of the time they want to get it right. But I got to tell you, what happened up in LA back in the 90s in the drug cartels that were going on up there, and all those cops that were in on the take and trafficking and stealing cocaine out of the LA police department's evidence room and then selling it. I mean, detectives, beat officers, people in internal affairs, I mean, it's a joke to even consider. It's laughable to even consider that we're going to accept the fact that you're going to investigate yourself and that you're going to, not be have any problem that if you made a mistake and you got it wrong and you coerced a witness, that you'll cop to that and admit, and then we can free that person that's now wasted 15 years of their life in prison because you needed a promotion or whatever. It's just crazy. So when we're talking about reform, there's got to be a consequence to this for any public official for their misconduct. Right now, they have basically, according to the courts and the Supreme Court, all but absolute immunity. I mean, it's got to be such an egregious stepping over the line before there's even a consequence. And good luck after you spent 29 to life and you're, 25 years into your 29 to life sentence. Good luck getting compensated for being wrongfully convicted. I mean, the whole system just stinks to high heaven. So in my wrap up, what I would like to do is just frame this in 2 or 3 different important blocks. One, I am the first person that will agree that we need to reform the entire system, okay, from A to Z, with the racist attitudes and the prejudice and bigotry to all of the police abuse, the investigator abuse, the wrongful conviction, all of it needs to be reformed. This area that I'm focusing in on are those people that are sitting in prison that shouldn't be there to begin with. And the people that got them put there by their bad deeds and bad acts, and there's no consequence. So reform, yes. Office of Independent Counsel to do the investigation, so it's not in any of those people that were participating when the original conviction happened. Yes. And then making sure that we pass the laws here in California and everywhere else that allows there to be no immunity under any condition for the government or any agency of the government when it has been established that somebody was wrongfully convicted. And then third frame is there needs to be complete, absolute compensation. I don't know how you give somebody back 25 years of their life, but you can write a pretty big check, which is a good start on the path to them taking whatever is left of their life and doing something meaningful for that. So, just as a wrap, think about what this means. Just being an average, everyday Jane or Joe, doing whatever you do to make things work for your family. And think about all the people that were trying to do the same thing and got caught up in a system that is this broken. And they're still sitting in prison. And more importantly, the thousands that have been exonerated and are out of prison, and we've done very little for them. It's a big problem. It's so big, it's even hard to imagine how you can even start thinking about how do you reform a system that refuses to be reformed. It's just pathetic. So that's enough for me tonight on Sunday Rants. We're going to be moving forward in September with our first initiative for Jermaine Smothers. So I will have some more updates next week on our first leg of outreach that we're going to be doing here in San Diego County. And hopefully we'll get a chance to talk to Jermaine here in the near future again, give him an update. And I think it's going to be exciting to at least watch as we start educating the public at large about this terrible, terrible problem that we have with wrongful convictions. With that said, have a great night. Have a great rest of the night and a great week ahead. God bless and peace out.